Are you suffering from overwhelming stress? Tonight, we're going to explore something beautiful together, an ancient wisdom that whispers of a different way to be in this world. We're journeying into the heart of Taoist philosophy to discover Wu Wei, the art of effortless action, and how to align with the natural flow of life itself. They learned that true power often lies not in resistance, but in yielding, not in rigid control, but in intelligent responsiveness. To understand this wisdom, we must step into the world of ancient China, over 2,500 years ago. Picture a time when the world was quieter, when people had space to observe the subtle rhythms of nature, when wisdom was passed down through careful observation rather than hurried consumption. It was here that a mysterious sage named Laozi, which simply means old master, observed something profound. From these observations emerged the Tao Te Ching, one of the most translated books in human history. But this isn't a religious text demanding belief. It tests more like a field guide for living in harmony with the natural order of existence, what the Taoists call the Tao, simply meaning the way. The Tao is the underlying principle that governs all existence, the rhythm of the seasons, the silent growth of trees, the effortless flow of rivers, the intricate dance of the cosmos. It's formless, nameless, inexhaustible. And this brings us to the heart of tonight's whisper, Wu Wei. These two simple Chinese characters hold profound medicine for our stressed and weary souls. Wu Wei literally means non-action or non-doing, but please don't mistake this for laziness or passivity. That would be like mistaking the ocean's depth for emptiness. Wu Wei is action without forced effort. It's the difference between swimming frantically against a current and floating skillfully with the flow. Both involve movement. Both can take you places, but one exhausts you while the other carries you forward with grace. Think of a master craftsperson. When they work, their movements are fluid, precise, seemingly effortless. They don't fight their materials. They understand them, work with their natural properties, allow the wood's grain or the clay's plasticity to guide their hands. The tool becomes an extension of their body, guided by intuitive understanding rather than brute force. This is Wu Wei in action. Or consider our river again. It flows effortlessly downhill, always finding the path of least resistance. It doesn't try to carve canyons. It simply flows, and over time, its gentle persistence shapes entire landscapes. When it meets a boulder, it doesn't push against it in frustration. It flows around, over, under, always finding a way. Yet despite this apparent non-striving, the river is incredibly powerful and effective. The opposite of Wu Wei is what the Taoists call Yu Wei, action with forced effort, action that goes against the natural grain, action driven by ego, fear, or desperate need for control. When we're caught in Yu Wei, we feel like we're constantly pushing a boulder uphill. We might achieve something, but at what cost? Exhaustion, burnout, and yes, overwhelming stress. Wu Wei invites us to observe first, to feel the current of any situation, and then to move with it rather than against it. It's about letting go of rigid control over outcomes and trusting in the natural unfolding of events. It means being receptive to opportunities that arise organically, rather than forcing doors that are meant to remain closed. As we prepare to dive deeper into this wisdom in our next whisper together, I want to leave you with a gentle invitation. Tonight, as you move towards sleep, notice where in your life you might be swimming upstream. Where are you forcing, pushing, trying to control what cannot be controlled? And then, just for a moment, imagine what it might feel like to release that grip, to trust the current, to allow yourself to be carried by something larger and wiser than your individual will. This isn't giving up. It's giving into a deeper intelligence, the same intelligence that moves the stars and grows the flowers without any effort at all. In our next part, we'll explore how to recognize and align with these natural flows in your daily life, in your work, your relationships, your very breath. We'll discover practical ways to invite Wu Wei into your most stressful moments, transforming resistance into flow, struggle into grace. I hope these whispers have been settling into your heart, like seeds finding fertile ground in the quiet earth. If you're just joining us, we re-exploring the ancient Taoist wisdom of Wu Wei, the art of effortless action, as healing medicine for our overwhelmed, stress-weary lives. In our last whisper together, we discovered that much of our stress comes from swimming against the current of life, from trying to force outcomes through sheer will, rather than moving with the natural intelligence of existence. Tonight, we wade deeper into these healing waters, learning not just to understand Wu Wei with our minds, but to feel it in our bodies, to recognize it in the rhythms of our daily lives. Bian paused in his work and asked, "What are you reading, my lord?" The Duke replied, "The words of the ancient sages." The wheelwright laughed at a Duke, and said, "Are these sages still alive?" It is about finding that perfect balance point, where your action aligns so completely with the natural grain of reality that effort becomes effortless, where your movements flow from deep understanding rather than forced technique. Instead, it flows around, over, under, always finding the natural opening. It's learning to work with the grain of your circumstances rather than against it, to find the natural openings rather than trying to force doors that aren't ready to open, to trust in intelligent responsiveness rather than desperate control. But what the ancient Greeks called kairos, the right time, the opportune moment when action flows naturally and bears fruit effortlessly. Over time, this gentle persistence can carve the Grand Canyon. A boulder that seemed immovable gradually becomes smooth, eventually becoming part of the riverbed itself. There are seasons when opportunities bloom naturally, when doors open with gentle pushes, when your energy flows freely toward your goals. When we honor these rhythms instead of forcing constant productivity, we find ourselves naturally more effective and infinitely less stressed. When do you feel most alert and creative? When does your body naturally want to rest? Instead of overriding these signals with caffeine and willpower, what if you honored them? What if you scheduled your most important work during your natural peak times and allowed yourself to rest when your energy naturally ebbs? And there are seasons of apparent contraction, of waiting, of what might seem like stagnation, but is actually deep preparation for what's to come. Instead of meeting these obstacles with force and frustration, what if you approach them like water? Pour it into a vast lake, and it becomes the lake. Water doesn't resist the shape of its container. It flows into it completely, while never losing its fundamental nature. It remains water, whether it's in a thimble or an ocean. What if you looked for the path around, the gentle persistence that might accomplish more than all your pushing and striving? Are people receptive to your ideas? Or do you constantly feel like you're convincing and persuading? The same element that falls as soft rain to nourish tender seedlings can carve through mountains as mighty rivers. Water knows when to be gentle and when to be powerful, when to trickle quietly and when to rush with force, when to be still as a mirror and when to flow like a torrent. Are opportunities arising organically, or are you having to force every door open? When to yield gracefully and when to stand your ground with quiet strength, when to act decisively and when to wait with patient wisdom. The stress we feel often comes from using the wrong energy at the wrong time, being forceful when gentleness would open hearts, or being passive when clear action is called for. The Taoist sage learns to be like water, flexible in form but unwavering in essence, able to work within constraints while maintaining their core integrity. The universe is always giving us feedback about our timing. We just need to learn to read its subtle language. Also notice the responses you receive from the world around you. Are people receptive to your ideas? Or do you constantly feel like you're convincing and persuading? Are opportunities arising organically? Or are you having to force every door open? The universe is always giving us feedback about our timing. We just need to learn to read its subtle language. They don't create the wave. They read the ocean's rhythm, position themselves skillfully, and ride its natural power. The wave does most of the work. The surfer simply aligns with its energy. When a mountain stream encounters a fallen tree, it doesn't rage against the obstacle or exhaust itself trying to move it through force. Instead, it explores, flowing around, seeping under, trickling over, always finding a way forward. This gentle persistence, over time, can carve through solid rock. The obstacle that seemed immovable is gradually worn smooth, eventually becoming part of the stream's natural flow. When they catch it perfectly, the ride looks effortless, graceful, almost magical. This is Wu Wei in action. I worked late into the night, pushed through exhaustion, forced words onto pages that felt lifeless and strained. The harder I pushed, the more elusive the work became, like trying to grasp water with clenched fists. It was only when I finally stepped back, when I allowed myself to rest, to walk in nature without agenda, to simply be present without producing, that the solution arrived. Not through my forcing, but through my receptivity. "No," said the Duke, "they died long ago." "Then what you're reading," said Bien, "is nothing but their leftover dregs." Because knowing about swimming while standing on the shore is quite different from feeling the water's embrace, learning to trust its buoyancy, and discovering how it can carry us forward with grace rather than struggle. Let me share with you one of my favorite stories from the ancient Taoist sage Zhuangzi, because it illuminates what Wu Wei truly means, and what it definitely does not mean. Once, Duke Huan was reading in his hall when a wheelwright named Bien was working below. The Duke was offended and demanded an explanation. The wheelwright set down his tools and said, "When I make a wheel, if I strike too gently, the chisel slips and won't bite. If I strike too hard, it bites but won't move smoothly. Only when I find the perfect balance, not too gentle, not too hard, does the wheel become perfect." But this knowing cannot be put into words or written in books. It can only be felt, experienced, lived. The ancient sages took this knowing with them when they died. So yes, my lord, what you're reading are just their leftover dregs. This story reveals Wu Wei's essence. It's not about doing nothing. The wheelwright is clearly working, creating something beautiful and functional. Think of water encountering a boulder in its path. The water doesn't rage against the stone or try to move it through brute force. This is Wu Wei in your life, dear friend. To practice Wu Wei, we must become students of timing, not clock time. I remember a period in my own life when I was desperately trying to force a creative project into completion. Think of a skilled surfer waiting for the perfect wave. Your life has these same currents, these same rhythms. In traditional Chinese medicine, they recognize that our bodies and minds have natural rhythms. Times when our energy rises like spring sap, peaks like summer sun, gathers like autumn harvest, and rests like winter snow. Here is how to begin recognizing these currents in your own life. Start paying attention to your natural energy rhythms throughout the day. Also notice the responses you receive from the world around you. Also notice the responses you receive from the world around you. Are people receptive to your ideas? Or do you constantly feel like you're convincing and persuading? Are opportunities arising organically? Or are you having to force every door open? The universe is always giving us feedback about our timing. We just need to learn to read its subtle language. First, water teaches us persistence without aggression. How might this apply to that impossible deadline you're facing, that difficult relationship, that financial challenge that keeps you awake at night? Second, water teaches us adaptability without losing essence. Pour water into a teacup, and it becomes the cup. This is profound wisdom for our stress-filled lives. How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to force situations to fit our rigid expectations instead of adapting skillfully to what is actually present? Third, water shows us that gentleness and power are not opposites. They are dance partners. In your life, this might mean learning when to speak softly and when to speak with firm clarity. So how do we begin to cultivate this water-like wisdom in our daily lives? How do we learn to recognize and align with these natural currents, even amidst the chaos and demands of modern living? Start with your breath, your most immediate teacher of natural flow. Your breath breathes itself without your conscious effort. When you're stressed, notice how your breathing becomes shallow, constricted, forced. Pay attention to moments when things feel easy, when solutions appear spontaneously, when conversations unfold naturally, when tasks feel light and graceful. These are moments when you're likely aligned with Wu Wei, even unconsciously. Notice how this feels in your body, what your state of mind was, what conditions were present. Trust that you, too, can learn to flow with life's currents, rather than exhaust yourself fighting against them. But feeling it pulse through our daily experiences, like a gentle current guiding us home to ourselves. Tonight, we explore how to recognize these currents in the very moments when stress threatens to overwhelm us, and how to find our flow even in the midst of chaos. It's learning to find the eye of the storm, that place of stillness that exists even within movement, even within challenge. Rest well, knowing that the Tao flows through your dreams, preparing you for tomorrow's gentle wisdom. This is the Tao affirming your alignment with its flow. This is simply your nervous system's ancient wisdom trying to protect you. Your shoulders naturally release downward, as if invisible hands are gently drawing tension away. Your breathing deepens and expands, filling not just your chest, but your belly, your back, your entire torso, like a gentle wave. Your hands soften, your face relaxes, and there's a quality of alert ease that runs through your entire being. But here is what the Taoists understood. Most of our modern threats cannot be resolved through fight or flight. Am I bracing against this moment or moving with it? Don't try to change anything immediately. Just notice. Awareness itself begins to shift our patterns, like sunlight naturally melting ice. But Taoism teaches us to embrace what they call Pu, the uncarved block. Focus on the next small, intuitive step that feels right. What is the natural grain of your current situation? The answers often emerge from gentle engagement, not from frantic searching. This represents potential, simplicity, the inherent wisdom of the unknown. It doesn't need to be defined or controlled to be perfect. They require a different kind of intelligence, the intelligence of flow. Is it a conversation that feels forced? A task that creates tension in your shoulders? A decision you're trying to make through sheer willpower? Our typical response is to push harder, to force ourselves through sheer willpower. But Wu Wei invites us to work like water, finding its path to the sea. Create a tiny space of stillness. In this pause, allow your intuitive wisdom to arise rather than your habitual reactions. Which task, if started, would create a ripple effect of ease? Sometimes the smallest, most effortless action unlocks momentum for everything else. But remember the bamboo, incredibly strong precisely because of its flexibility. It yields to the storm's force, allowing the wind to pass through, then springs back unharmed. Trust your energy rhythms. Tackle focused work when your mind is sharp. Handle lighter tasks when your energy naturally dips. You don't have to agree, but you can understand. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is yield, not surrendering your values, but softening your stance, creating space for genuine solutions to emerge rather than battles of will. Your shoulders creep toward your ears, like turtles retreating into their shells. Your jaw clenches as if you're trying to bite through steel. Your breathing becomes shallow and confined to your upper chest, as if you're preparing for battle. Your hands form unconscious fists, your stomach knots, and even your thoughts become rigid and repetitive. It's in this small emptiness that Wu Wei can emerge, offering responses that are both wise and effortless. Your body is your most sensitive instrument, constantly giving you feedback about your relationship to the present moment. Simply notice that feeling of resistance without judgment. This sensation is information from the Tao, whispering. You might be going against the natural grain here. Wu Wei invites you to simply observe your breath, to allow it to deepen naturally, like a river settling into its banks. Just for a few moments now, feel that gentle rise and fall, the effortless inhale, the effortless exhale. This is your body's innate wisdom, always seeking balance. In our next whisper together, we'll explore how to apply this wisdom to specific life challenges. Those moments when stress feels overwhelming and you need practical ways to find your flow again. Notice where you're swimming upstream. Throughout your day, pay attention to moments when you feel friction, when things feel like pushing a boulder uphill. Equally important, notice where life flows effortlessly. Practice the sacred pause. Before reacting to a stressful email, a demanding request, or a challenging conversation, take one conscious breath. These are gentle beginnings, dear friend. Wu Wei is not a technique to master, but a way of being to cultivate, like tending a garden or learning to dance. For now, as you move towards sleep, carry with you the image of water finding its way. Patient, persistent, powerful in its gentleness. I sense we're ready to wade into the living waters of Wu Wei, not just understanding it with our minds. We've discovered that Wu Wei isn't passive inaction, but intelligent responsiveness. The art of moving with life as natural currents, rather than exhausting ourselves swimming upstream. Because the true test of Wu Wei isn't how peaceful we feel during meditation. It is how gracefully we can navigate that overwhelming deadline, that difficult conversation, that moment when life seems to demand more than we have to give. Let us begin by learning to read the exquisite language your body speaks when you're realigned with Wu Wei versus when you fighting against the current. When you in resistance, swimming upstream against life's flow, your body tells a very clear story. If you're experiencing this right now, please don't judge yourself. When you're aligned with Wu Wei, your body speaks a completely different language. Several times throughout your day, simply pause and ask yourself, am I holding or am I flowing? Now let us explore how Wu Wei transforms our approach to the most common sources of overwhelming stress in our modern lives. We've all felt it, that mountain of tasks that seems to grow faster than we can climb it. Instead of forcing through your entire list, ask, what feels most natural to do right now? When conflict arises, our instinct is often to stiffen, to defend, to push back. In challenging conversations, try listening like water, receiving the other person's words without immediate resistance or rebuttal. The future's uncertainty creates constant anxiety in our control-seeking minds. Instead of trying to force certainty where none exists, rest in the present moment. One of Wu Wei's most profound teachings concerns timing, not the mechanical tick of clocks, but the organic rhythms that govern all life. Everything in nature has its season, its moment of readiness, its perfect timing for action and rest. I want to share something personal with you. There was a time when I was desperately trying to force a major life transition. I pushed and networked and applied endless effort. The harder I tried, the more doors seemed to close. Before taking important action, pause and ask, is this the right moment, or am I acting from anxiety and impatience? Feel into your body. Does the action feel forced and effortful, or does it arise naturally from the situation? I continued to prepare, to stay open, but I released my desperate grip on the outcome. This isn't about doing nothing, but about doing everything from a place of alignment, flow, and natural timing. Our candle burns low, but the light we've kindled together, the understanding of Wu Wei, the art of effortless flow, this light will continue to illuminate your path long after these whispers fade. Within 2 weeks, an opportunity appeared that was more perfect than anything I could have forced into existence. You've learned to read your body's wisdom, to move like water around life's obstacles, to trust in timing larger than your individual will. Now, let's weave these insights into a living practice that will carry you forward with grace. Years of practice have created such deep skill that movements flow from someplace deeper than conscious thought. When conflict arises, remember that two rivers can flow side by side without losing their essential nature. This is natural, dear one. Water carved the Grand Canyon. Gentle persistence built the mountains. Your worth isn't measured by how hard you struggle, but by how authentically you flow. You don't have to agree to understand. You don't have to convince to love. You don't have to control to care. You are not separate from the intelligence that moves the stars and grows the flowers. You don't have to earn your place in this universe. You belong here by the simple fact of your existence. Your stress often comes from forgetting this fundamental truth. Pause, breathe, ask, where is the natural opening here? How can I flow around this obstacle rather than exhaust myself fighting it? Sometimes it means delegating, sometimes waiting for better timing, sometimes simply accepting what cannot be changed while focusing your energy where it can make a difference. Wake tomorrow with Wu Wei in your bones, with trust in your heart, with the memory of this night's wisdom guiding your every step. Until we meet again in these quiet hours, may the Tao flow through every breath, every heartbeat, every precious moment of your beautiful, unfolding life. To persist with grace rather than force to trust the current that carries all things toward their perfect destination. There's tremendous focus and precision, but it appears effortless because it's aligned with natural rhythms. Take 3 breaths that reach all the way down to your roots. Ask softly, how does my energy want to move today? I can flow around this. I can find the natural way through. The Tao flows through my breath, my choices, my very being. I am never alone in this flowing. Trust that first gentle impulse. Perhaps it's stretching toward the window, making tea mindfully, or simply sitting in grateful stillness. This isn't adding another task. It's honoring your natural rhythm from the very first moment. I was exhausted, discouraged, beginning to doubt my path entirely. Just one conscious breath. Inhale deeply, feeling your body. Exhale slowly, releasing tension. In that brief stillness, ask, what is the natural thing to do here? What would water do? This isn't about finding complex answers, but about connecting with an intuitive sense of ease, of alignment. Then, in a moment of complete surrender, not giving up, but giving in to a wisdom larger than my individual will, I stopped pushing. This is what Taoists call strategic patience, not passive waiting, but active preparation combined with wise timing. As we prepare to explore even deeper applications in our next Whisper Together, I want to leave you with perhaps Wu Wei's most beautiful paradox, effortless effort. Think of a master calligrapher whose brush dances across paper. Your sacred practice. Throughout your day, especially when stress builds, take a tiny pause. Here we are, beloved friend, at the sacred threshold between night and dawn, between ancient wisdom and your transformed tomorrow. Through our journey together, you've discovered that stress isn't your enemy. It is often your soul's way of saying, we've drifted from our natural rhythm. Wu Wei is a weekend retreat from your life. It is a way of being that transforms every ordinary moment into sacred practice. Your morning flow. Before your feet touch the floor, place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. Throughout your day, when you feel that familiar tightness of swimming upstream, the clenched jaw, the racing thoughts, the desperate push against what is, remember your water nature. In relationships, practice listening like a still pond, receiving others' words without immediate ripples of judgment or advice. As you begin living this way, you may encounter whispers of resistance from others who don't understand your newfound gentleness, from parts of yourself conditioned to believe that struggle equals worth. When your mind protests, but I'll fall behind, I'll be seen as weak. Remember, the most powerful forces in nature appear gentle. The deepest healing Wu Wei offers isn't stress management, it's as remembering. who you truly are beneath all the forcing and striving. As our sacred time together draws to its natural close, I want to offer you a blessing for the journey ahead, not as words you simply hear, but as truth you can feel in your bones. May you remember in moments of overwhelm that you carry within you the wisdom of water, the ability to find your way around any obstacle. May you honor your natural rhythms, resting when rest is called for, acting when action flows naturally, speaking when your words can heal, and embracing silence when it serves the greater harmony. May you trust that you are held by something infinitely larger and wiser than your individual will, the same Tao that guides migrating birds, that knows when flowers should bloom, that moves the tides without effort or strain. And when life as storms arise, as they surely will, may you remember these whispers. I am water. Sleep now, flowing soul. Let your dreams teach you the language of effortless movement. This is Holy Night Whispers, where ancient wisdom meets your tender heart in the sacred darkness. Good night, dear friend. Good morning, flowing spirit. The river of wisdom flows on.